Harding.
You want a piece of chocolate? But you don't.
Thank you.
You can have another mine. Harry Berry. How are you?
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Hey, let's try.
All right. So y'all ready to go?
I like this seat so much better.
All right. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's according to our new big clock over there in the wall. It's 6:34. Call to order. Roll call, please.
President Alvarado?
Here.
Vice President Sedith?
Yes.
Director Stanley?
Yes.
Director Wiener? Yes. Director Cepeda?
Here.
Next item, please.
Pledge of Allegiance or observation of moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, approval of agenda order.
Before we get into the approval of agenda order, I've asked Mick if I can say something in this right now, and I'm going to go ahead and do so because he advised me I could. So, good evening, fellow board members and staff. Thank you once again for giving me the honor to serve as your president for the next year. I will do my best to serve the WCWD district in a professional manner. To that end, I have some guidelines I would like to share with you on how I will be presiding over board meetings. First, I would ask that you wait until the agenda item is presented by staff or the presenter. If you cannot wait, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Having said this, please keep your questions or comments germane to the agenda item. If you stray off the agenda topic, I'm instructing the board attorney to immediately comment and advise you to stay within topic. Please remember that the board attorney is here to counsel the board and give advice when needed. Ultimately, it is up to me as president to call you out of order if you do not adhere to his advice, and I believe you are going off the rails. I would strongly suggest that you listen to his advice and think carefully before proceeding. Second, when the item has been presented and it is time for questions, we will be going from left to right on the agenda item and then right to left on the ensuing agenda item and then back left to right and so on. The vice president will go forth and I will finish the discussion last. Third, I encourage all board members to read their board packages and send all questions to Lisa prior to the meeting, as this will expedite the board meeting. Fourth, if you wish to remove something from the consent calendar, please send your concern or question to Lisa prior to the board meeting, as this may allay any concerns or doubts you may have on the item, and once again will help us expedite things. Finally, I ask that Lisa send all presentations and or PowerPoints that are not part of the board package prior to the board meeting so that the board can review prior to the meeting. In addition to this, I would ask that any presenter not repeat what is in the presentation or PowerPoint, but rather information that was not included or that they believe would be beneficial to the board in making their determination. Of course, this would not apply if the board has not had the opportunity to review the presentation or PowerPoint before the board meeting. This should be a rare occasion, as expediency will allow us to be more efficient when we meet. I want to thank the board and staff in advance for their anticipated cooperation. Here's to a great upcoming year. Thank you. Next item, please.
Do we have an approval of the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of the agenda order. What is the will of the body?
I move we accept the agenda as is.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Item's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Stanley?
Yes.
Director Wiener?
Yes.
Director Cepeda?
Yes.
Vice President Sedith?
Yes.
President Alvarado?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Item 3, public comments. Items not on the agenda. Members of the public may speak to an item on the agenda at the time the matter is being discussed by the board. Under this section, members of the public may address the board on any item of interest that is within the district's jurisdiction and not listed on this agenda. Directors may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, refer the matter to staff, or place the matter on a future agenda. The board cannot act on items not listed on this agenda. Individuals who wish to address the board at the meeting are asked to submit a speaker card to the administrative supervisor prior to the start of the meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Public comments on items listed on the agenda will be heard at the time the agenda item is being discussed.
Next item, please. As we have no public here.
Item 4, consent calendar. Recommendation, item 4A, recommendation, approve the minutes for the meetings of January 7th, 2020, January 15th, 2020, and January 27th, 2020. Items 4B, recommendation, approve proclamation recognizing the month of February as Black History Month. Item 4C, recommendation, adopt a resolution authorizing the general manager to make non-substantive amendments to all job specifications effective February 5th, 2020.
Okay, what is the will of the body?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Get a second? It has been moved and seconded.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry? Director,
Vice President Sutter.
Vice President Sutter.
Roll call, please.
Director Stanley?
Yes.
Director Weiner?
Yes.
Director Cepeda?
Yes.
Vice President Suddeth?
Yes.
President Alvarado?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Item 5, action calendar. 5A, recommendation, approve the board's president's recommendations for appointments to standing committees and special representative appointments for 2020.
Okay, well, here's my recommendations for our standing committees. The Planning Committee, I recommend Vice President Suddeth as chair, Director Cepeda as a member, and Director Stanley as an alternate. The Global Warming Committee will stay as is. Harry Weiner will be the chair, Director Stanley will be a member, and Director Suddeth will be the alternate. The West County Agency will remain the same until June 30th, at which time we'll make appointments to start their new year. The California Association of Sanitation Agencies will also remain the same, and the California Special Districts Association will also remain the same. I am considering an ad hoc committee, but I have not all the details worked out yet, so when I do, I'll put that on, I'll let staff know to put that on the agenda. It will probably be at the next board meeting. If it's not, it'll be the first meeting in March. And those are my recommendations. What is the will of the body?
I move that we accept the president's recommendations.
Second, please.
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded. Please take the roll.
Director Weiner?
Aye.
Director Cepeda?
Aye.
Director Stanley?
Yes.
Vice President Suddeth?
Yes.
President Alvarado?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Item 5B, recommendation, review and consider LAFCO's 2020 election nomination and 2020 district voting delegate.
So do we have anything on this? Any recommendation?
That was the recommendation.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Jeff Mobile, Administrative Services Park Manager. This item was received in the mail several weeks ago for LAFCO nominations. There is a position that is open representing special districts on the LAFCO position. The current incumbent whose term is expiring will be seeking re-election. So this is an opportunity for the board to decide if they would like to nominate somebody themselves or change who is voting delegate at this time. And if there is some other action, we would come back with an actual resolution.
Okay, what is the will of the body? Director Stanley. She had her hand up first.
I'm sorry.
I'm very happy to endorse Michael McGill. Is it McGill?
It's not a topic to be discussed.
To remain in his position.
Okay. Director Weiner?
I agree with Director Stanley, and I think we need a resolution. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like to make an amendment to your motion. I move that the board resolve to nominate the incumbent Mike McGill to serve another term on the LAFCO board and send the resolution to the appropriate person at LAFCO.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the item has been moved and seconded. Please take the roll. Yeah.
Just to clarify, Mike
Sure.
McGill is with
Central
Central
Sands.
Sands. So just to make sure the record is clear, he represents us from Central Sands, Central Sands from this part of the county. I just want to make sure the record's clear, that we have the full record.
Noted.
In addition to that, I have a question about that. Last year, I believe I had to sign something. Am I still that person that would be signing because you were the alternate, President Alvarado? And if so, will you make sure we get it in time to...
Yeah, Director Stanley, you still are the representative to vote on behalf of the district.
Okay,
So you'll
will you let me know as soon as you got that? Somebody's got that ready in case my calendar conflicts.
Any further discussion? Take the roll.
Director Weiner?
I move, yes.
Director Cepeda?
Yes.
Director Stanley?
Yes.
Vice President Sedith?
Yes.
President Alvarado?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Item 6, information reports. 6A, recommendation, receive a report on,
I think we skipped C.
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
5C, recommendation, adopt a resolution authorizing the general manager to adopt and implement the California Union Public Construction Cost Accounting Act according to Public Contract Code 22000, et cetera.
Justin, will you be presenting on this?
Yes, I will give a brief presentation. Good evening again. Justin Lovell, Administrative Services Department Manager. So this item before you is a resolution to authorize the district to use the California Uniform Construction Cost Accounting Act. It is, we'll just call it CUPCA. It is the abbreviation. It essentially will allow the district to bid public construction projects that are smaller dollar amount in an alternative form that is currently happening. Because right now, any project, say like a spot repair that's over $15,000, would require the formal bidding, which takes a significant amount of time, noticing in the newspapers, and they found it difficult to get through, to have enough bidders having so much requirements and specifications going through the formal process for a smaller dollar amount. And so this will, if the board approves this resolution, the district could become a member and follow the CUPCA guidelines about bidding for small projects. And so essentially that means projects that are up to $60,000 could be directly negotiated with a contractor. Projects between $60,000 and $200,000 could be bid more informally. Wouldn't have to have a full plan set. Staff would be able to go out to bid much more quickly to get some of that work done on these smaller projects. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Okay, we'll start at the far left. Director Stanley, any questions, comments?
No.
Director Weiner?
So I appreciate the brief description of how they differ from the current. But I did not see any mention of the possible downsides of informal bidding process, even though it's made legal for these amounts if we adopt these rules. So it sounded to me like you said we could have our favorite bidder and just ask them to do a spot repair
Not necessarily exactly like within that amount, but if it's under $60,000, our internal forces could do it, which right now they actually can't. If it's over that 15,000 threshold, we're supposed to go out to bid. Or we could, negotiate directly with a contractor. But this allows us in those cases that if there is not as much, we don't have as many plans set, we haven't done a full design to get some work done, and it's really going to be more maintenance focused than like an actual larger project. I don't know if Andrew would like to come in and say a few things about his experience with this.
Good evening. Andrew Cloud, Deputy General Manager. We've used this extensively when I was in Emeryville, and there's still a whole series of rules you got to follow and adhere to, and you're basically signed up. You guys have to approve it, or we can't follow that protocol. You got to be on the list. You got to make sure that you keep that up to date. But its greatest benefit are for those contracts that are the maintenance contracts that we would need for just regular, whether it's a painter or a security alarm company or things like that, that you can negotiate a contract with them under that threshold, and that makes it enormously easier to do it. You can still do the 60, the above 60, that other threshold, those more like public works type contracts. You're still doing bids at those points. But it's the ones beneath that threshold that allows you to negotiate the maintenance contract. And in many cases, we would still choose to do a bid anyway.
So, just to clarify in my mind, you would have a list of painters, you would have a list of contractors to do the different kinds of maintenance, and then you would choose from that list, and you might call them up and offer, how much would you do it for, how much would you do it for? But there is a list of a number of contractors.
Yeah, I would like to, so that is part of the rules conforming to this law, that we would be required to maintain a list, is just like you said, by type of contractors, like the painters, plumbers, that depending on the type of work that they would do. And when we had that work, we would go out and ask them to submit a bid for the type of work that we would do. So that way we would still be able to get the lowest cost for the work that we need.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, thank you for the clarification. That's all I have.
That's it. Director Spada?
And this is only for construction? Thank you, Mr. President. This is only for construction projects? This is not for anything else?
That is correct. Any services would fall under our other procurement guidelines within the district. This is just specifically for public construction.
Okay, thank you. That was
Yeah.
my question.
And maintenance as well.
President Zeb?
I won't say too much because this is what I do every day. So, but for clarity purposes, there's a lot of benefits for it, but there's also a lot of rules for using CAPCA. But the benefits for it is that, they still have to be registered with the DIR, and they still have to follow a strict guidelines to make sure that you're not choosing, your uncle or your brother-in-law.
Or your favorite.
Or your favorite,
And for those
right?
of us who don't know
Because
what
it still
DIR
is
what is DIR?
Department of Industrial Relations. It's the state.
Thank you for the clarification.
And they still have to have all of their permits. And, you can't hire the guy down the street because it's cheaper. They still have to be qualified contractors. So all the rules still apply. It's just that when it's under $60,000, it allows certain public works contracts that we need to have done to be expedited. That's really what it is. But if it goes over that 60,000 threshold with change orders or something like that, then the rules do change. So if it even comes close to the 60,000, then they have to start looking at it differently. This is only to expedite certain construction contracts. And Cesar, for your information, when it's a professional services contract, it falls under different rules, like the Brooks Act or something different. So it's for construction contracts, the state is really, really tight because it's $100,000 threshold when different rules kick in. So that's why 60,000 is the threshold for this type of, the Public Contracts Act is really, really tight on construction because of the likelihood of collusion and corruption. So that's why.
It's not
this-
illegal, is it?
Well, only when you're on this side of the country. On the other side of the country, those two words obviously don't mean the same thing. But how many projects do we have that would be affected by this? Is my question for you. I mean, are we anticipating, how often will we be anticipating using this?
I don't have a number, and Angela has a number off the top.
Maybe not a number, but maybe a percentage.
I actually think it might be something that we use more going forward. We have a lot of deferred maintenance, for example, on this building, on the plant facilities, not the actual equipment, but just the building itself. And we've struggled quite a bit to do things like painting. And we are oftentimes trying to pull together multiple things to get people interested. So I think going forward, it's actually going to be a bigger benefit as we deal with some of the deferred maintenance in our facilities. But we don't I feel like we actually looked at this number, and I don't have it on me at the moment. But, Andrew?
I would concur with that, I don't know if we have a number, but it's primarily for those maintenance services, the painting, the plumbing, an electrician, all those kinds of services. If it's a public works contract, like paving the parking lot or something like that, we're going to not very likely to actually use this process. We'll probably stick with the regular public contracting law process for that. Might be an occasion, but the benefits of using this program for that kind of contract get very, very slim. It's almost exactly the same thing as using the public contracting code. But for those ones under that 60 threshold for maintenance services, it's very helpful, especially for a smaller agency in smaller cities where they're just not, it's harder to get that kind of service because you're not bidding a big enough unless you go out and do an RFP for, say, a 5-year elevator service contract for $125,000 or something like that. But otherwise, to get them each year on those lower amounts, a lot of times they're not that interested in working with the smaller agencies. The bigger contracts is totally different. It's all public contracting code anyway.
Yeah. So you've just been using an informal process for this?
Well, no, anything over 15,000 we've been bidding.
You've been using a formal process or informal?
Yes.
The formal
process.
Formal?
Yeah, so even when we've had painting or just even maintenance that's gone over that, we've had to follow that, the 15,000 threshold. But again, it's been a huge struggle to get contractors interested in even, because they also don't want to do that small dollar amount. It's not worth it. They all have a ton of work, so.
All right.
Are you all set, Vice President Staff? Okay, Director Spada.
Question. I know that the staff is working on the PLA agreement coming back in June. Will this affect the PLA in any way, or how would that work in concurrent?
I don't believe this would affect that agreement at all. This is really just for those small dollar amounts, and the PLA will be for much larger size projects.
Your draft PLA addresses projects of $1 million or more. You can change that, but that's what we're focused on at this point.
Okay, that's what it was. So thank you.
Right.
And one comment, Mr. President, this
Yes.
will not affect the district's ability to use its own forces. That's called force account labor. You can currently use force account labor with no limit. There's no $15,000 limit.
Yeah.
That was decided in a case, I think it was Ross Valley Sanitary District, about 10 years ago. They said that use of force account labor is not a district project.
Thank you, Mick. All set? Director Spada?
Yeah, thank you.
I just have one comment. I mean, it's kind of hard for us to know how this is going to work because we've never done it before, correct? And how much usage we're going to, so I would say probably next year we'll have a better idea. Maybe even 6 months down the line we'll have an idea. And maybe you can come back to us and let us know how many times you've used it. Sure. That would be good information.
We will still see, I will note that. We will also, if there's any contract still over $75,000, and if we use this process, that will still require us to go to the board to approve the contract. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
What is the will of the board?
So I move the board elect by resolution to become subject to the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, and we adopt the resolution.
I second. I have a comment. if I may.
Go ahead.
I was a little concerned about the low, what I consider the low threshold to the PLA, but this makes me feel better because basically we're able to support small businesses and individual contractors better. So part of the reason why I like this.
Okay.
Yes, she seconded.
Do we have a second? Okay.
Sherry second.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Suddeth?
Yes.
Director Stanley?
Yes.
Director Weiner?
Yes.
Director Cepeda?
Yes.
President Alvarado?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Item 6, information reports. 6A, recommendation, receive a report on district service contracts.
Who is handling that?
So actually, information reports, we are not necessarily presenting anything. We will certainly answer any questions on any of the information
That was
reports.
part of the agenda package.
Yes, exactly.
I saw it.
So if you have
So
questions, we
there's,
can answer that.
We're going to start from Director Cepeda, go on the other way now.
Thank you. I just want, first off, say thank you to the staff for providing this report. It looks great. Just to be able to see all the different services that we have. I do have a few other questions, but maybe later as we start drilling down more on the process and what we're going to do next. I'm sure there might be a committee or something, but we can drill down more on this with a few other questions. But it's great, so I want to thank you for the work. Thank you.
All set. Director Weiner.
I have no comment.
Comment? Director Stanley.
Thank you, staff, for the trouble putting this together. I appreciate it.
All set. Vice President Sutter. Good?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Actually, sorry, can I, one other
Go
thing,
right ahead.
and I had this note and I forgot to say it. Part of the motion as well was to see if we had any recommendation on best practices in both of, how do we, and I'm just using the terms that are in here, both in annual spend, solicitation, terms, especially the terms. How long do we have each contract for? What's the usual or customary term limits for each one? So as we look at these, if we say, oh, these are 4-year one for Canon, is that usual? Or do we usually do 2 or 10?
So there isn't necessarily a best practice or a rule out there with the exception of the auditors. We're required to change our auditors every 5 years. You don't have to change the firm, but you do have to put it out and they have to change the principal. Short of that, we haven't found any rules, but in general, we have been doing contracts between 3 and 5 years. Some of the bigger contracts we want to, just because of the difficulty of putting together and the time, we might do those at a 5-year. Some of our projects, well, you can see a lot of ours are project-based, so they have a short period of time and they're not ongoing. We only have a handful of ongoing contracts. So that's sort of where our focus is at the moment, although we are working on our procurement policy currently, and we'll have some more guidelines in that we'll bring forward. So.
Thank you.
All set.
All set.
Vice President Sutter.
Okay, so I do have a question. So in your, on the on-call, how are you, maybe you'll answer that when you do the procurement policy, so.
Go ahead and ask him.
Are you, when you do the on-call, are you securing those by, because it says not applicable, and then it says varies, so I'm just trying to figure out, are they by RFP, or how are we doing those? Because especially for engineering services, when you do on-call engineering for A&E, typically you do them by, they're subject to Brooks Act, or they're subject to, so how are we doing those?
So a lot of those, if it's a specific project, that's different. But for those where it's maybe just advice that we need quickly, or we're asking them to do a limited project, just to advise us or do something quick, then we haven't necessarily done that. A couple of years ago, we did an official on-call contract with Corollo that was about, the board authorized $75,000. So this is something, and some of them are just really specialized. For example, you'll see investigative services. Those usually come up and need to be responded to immediately. We try to actually use different people for those things and not necessarily always use the same people, and there's definitely a desire on the engineering side specifically. Michael's not here tonight, but he's expressed a desire to start, and he has started to use other contractors beside Corollo. It's time to have some variety and have different perspectives, so.
What's that?
When we get to procurement policy, we'll talk about it. Okay. Thank you.
So, Mick, do we need to take a vote on this, or just,
No, I think we're just receiving. We're just receiving.
Okay.
We're just receiving.
next item, please?
6B, receive a report from the ad hoc committee.
Again, if you have any questions, this was the sort of the wrap-up of the work from the ad hoc committee that was looking at the meeting policies and procedures that Director Wiener and Zepeda were on, and this is sort of a summary of their recommendations. We have some follow-up to those that we'll bring forward to the board that will incorporate their recommendations. Staff has additional recommendations to the policy just to bring everything in line.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing that back to the board for a full, the comprehensive policy that incorporates all of those recommendations.
Okay, this time we'll start with Director Stanley.
We had a discussion, I think it was the planning committee actually who had the discussion about whether or not it was legitimate to call the vice president when the legal stuff says we must have a secretary. And I talked to our board attorney about it. He advised that it's perfectly fine, and we went through this before, and Mick, you can tell people all about it if you wish. But are we going to put like a little sentence or two that says, we know we're calling our secretary a vice president and to be in compliance with whatever this thing is, and refer that little thing so everything's integrated so everyone knows?
Well, so it was changed appropriately, I think, by ordinance. Yeah?
Correct, and we
Yeah.
did exactly what
Yeah.
you said.
Okay.
And our policy just didn't catch up to. And so that's some of the things we need to clean up in our policies. Overall, we're doing a mass review of all of our policies, and they're just not caught up with. We did it officially in the correct way, and the policy just doesn't reflect that. So those are some of the additional changes that staff will be bringing forward to update it so everything is in line.
Well, should we, I'm just throwing that out there for you to consider, shouldn't we put a little note somewhere that says we're aware of this, code or whatever it was that we're supposed to abide by, but we changed it by ordinance, as you just said, in case any of the public starts?
Yeah, it's just, the meeting policies and procedures is, the board adopts it by resolution, but the ordinance already reflects it, and we just have to change the policy to
okay.
reflect it.
Okay,
The
great.
real
I
issue is if we hadn't changed the ordinance, then that would have been the issue.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Director Wiener?
Yeah, so let's bring as part of our matters to consider when we do review this and rewrite it however we wish, that we have that as well, our establishing law, what do we call it,
It was changed, the name was changed from.
No,
are you talking
I'm
about
not referring to a
Oh.
specific thing. We should have the whole document, that
the policies and procedures.
policies and procedures and the ordinance
The ordinance isn't specific to the meeting policies and procedures.
But we
though.
should have the appropriate ordinance that we change to allow us to call the Secretary or Vice President included in the documentation that we will review just for completeness. Because the ordinance does establish that we can do our policy.
So what you're suggesting is that we put in here per ordinance, boop, 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 boop.
No, I'm saying that when we have our discussion, that the ordinance be part of the documentation that we can review as we go forward on the policy.
I see.
It's just.
Attachment.
I mean, yeah, the ordinance is there, but the meeting policies and procedures is more comprehensive, it follows more things than just that piece of it, but certainly we can give you the reference to the ordinance, it's online.
Yeah, we don't need to include it in the policy. I'm saying just when we bring everything forward that everybody's going to review, that's just one of the documents we look at. Just so we could get a clear idea of how they relate to
It sounds harmless enough. All set, Director Weiner?
I have some other suggestions, but I'll wait till we get to the future agenda items.
Okay.
Mr. President, the ordinance does not say the board has the right to adopt policies and procedures. You certainly have that inherent right.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll give you anything you want, but that's not what the ordinance actually says.
Director Spada?
No comments.
Director Stada?
I just had a comment, Lisa, because you said make it available online. Part of the reason why I like printed agendas is because I write all over them. So what Director Weiner just suggested is that a copy of the ordinance be included in our agenda packet is a way of referencing that in our director's binder and with our meeting notes, however we keep them. And
I mean, we can certainly print it out and give it to you. I was just suggesting that if you wanted to reference the ordinance, it's online. So, but we can certainly print it out and give it to you as part of the agenda as an attachment. That's fine.
thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Sedef?
We're just receiving this, right?
Yes.
I'm fine.
I'm fine as well. So next item, please.
Item 7, matters from staff, general manager, attorney. 7A, staff, general manager, attorney comments, communications, report on issues or matters pertaining to the overall operations of the district.
So we actually have an update from Angela Andrews. I think most of you have met her. She is our new capital program manager, and she's going to give you an update on our Hilltop Green project.
A brief update.
Yes, it'll be brief.
Hello, my name is Angela Andrews, and I'm the Capital Program Manager in the Infrastructure and Planning Department. And it is my pleasure meeting you all again, and I'm here to provide a project update on Hilltop Green. So we have replaced 1,100 feet of pipe, and we'll be connecting the line to the manhole, which we anticipate completing by next week. Replacing the pipe was important as we needed to remove the bypass that was put in place after the pipe burst in November. The line has been fused and pressure tested and has passed without any issues. It was important to conduct this test to ensure the pipe can handle capacity and flow through the new pipe. We will be installing cathodic protection to prevent corrosion of the pipe. We anticipate for that to be complete by next week's end. We are on track to start remediation of the season swell and anticipate for remediation to be completed by the end of the month. Due to impacts on the field and the location of our easement within the residence driveway, we feel it's important to restore, to not only protect the district's investment, but also be a good neighbor. There will continue to be work in the intersection of Hilltop Green and La Paloma, but traffic controls have been put in place, and Pebble Drive will remain open as an alternative, as turning on La Paloma may be restricted when connecting to the manhole for the safety of our crew and residents. We will be meeting with the City of Richmond to coordinate on mitigating impacts to the basketball court, as trucks were required to pass through the park to reach the area to perform repairs. As part of our commitment to community relations, we distributed 80 letters to the nearest residents, including Hilltop Green Housing HOA for additional distribution on the progress of the project. We did that on Friday, January 31st, and this past Monday on the 2nd. Last night, Keith Reynolds, our senior project manager, and myself attended the Hilltop Green Housing Association meeting to update the community on progress and to field questions regarding the project. Not only have we collaborated internally and cross-functionally between CSO, maintenance, and engineering, but also with the city, as it's been a great partner throughout the repair. Thank you for your assistance as well and throughout the project, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Director Spada.
No questions, thank you.
Dr. Weiner?
No, did you guys knock out the electricity at La Paloma and?
That was not related to us.
I think East Bay Mud has been out there, right?
Yeah,
Well.
anyway, right now, as I came, the light was out at that corner.
Yes.
And traffic was backed up all the way to
They
the
were
freeway.
confused.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then you're off the hook on that. Good.
Director Stanley?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Owen? We're not finished.
One more.
We got two more. Vice President Sutter?
I thought we were done too. So.
I have nothing. You can bounce back.
You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Angela.
just wanted to make you walk back. Thank you so much.
General Manager?
Do you guys have any other updates?
Staff?
I did want to just ask Justin to briefly update the board on the temporary assistance for board support. If you can just.
Yes, I would like to update the board. As Sherry Kelly, who had been assisting us, she ran out of hours as a CalPERS retiree. And so we are in the process of working with a temp firm to have another person come out and provide board support services. So we are targeting that person will be starting February 18th to help.
Was Sherry coming back?
She could come back in July 1st.
Yeah, it has to be
continue
next year.
assisting us on project basis.
She'll have a major role in helping us with our records retention program.
Yeah.
When she can come back. She's a great resource.
Hours.
Dr. Weiner, any questions for Justin?
None that I can ask.
Director Cepeda?
Anything that we need between now and the 18th should be directed towards?
You can direct it through me, and then I can work with staff to make sure that you have any it's done with the reservations.
Is there email being checked in case we send something to her?
Yeah, we were working back to get Claire Computers, our IT consultant, so we can have access and regularly monitor the emails.
Okay, thank you.
Vice President Sutter?
Thank you.
So I'm assuming the emails that we got today from Sherry Kelly, that wasn't her, someone else?
It may have been. She may have sent an email. I don't recall.
She sent about 3 or 4 emails today. So,
We need to check that. Yeah, we're not aware. She usually CCs us, so that seems a little odd.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
It's from Sherry Kelly.
So we can assume that Sherry, Director Stanley, please. We can assume that Sherry Kelly is no longer with us.
It's a very, very limited role right now.
Okay.
Really just focusing on the records retention project. We will-
Okay. Director Stanley?
She was forwarding us stuff. She wasn't sending us new, unique information.
Yeah, she just usually copies us, so that's why
I did not recall seeing.
Yeah.
it looks like it's all legitimate related to West County, so I don't think someone just broke into her email and is
Director,
forwarding
please
you.
give me your credit card and your
Yeah.
social security
Right,
number.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your
Well,
password?
I'm going to give you $1 million.
Someone sent me an email saying I won $950,000 to this address, and I forwarded
Yes,
that to you,
got
so
it. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
be careful, guys.
Yeah.
We're getting scammed some way, shape, or form. Thank you, Justin.
Did you guys have any other? You don't? Okay. I did just want to let the board know I will be on vacation starting tomorrow through the Tuesday, the 7th, 17th, 18th, whatever that day is. Andrew will be acting general manager. So, just so you know.
Did you guys approve
Thank you.
This?
Nick, anything?
No, I was going to do an oral report on AB5. I think it's better if I send it out in writing, and then
I
you can
think so,
ask
too.
questions next time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 8, matters from members of the board. 8A, meeting reports, reports on committee activities, conferences, seminars, and meetings pertaining to the overall operations of the district.
Okay, we'll start with you, Director Spada.
I attended the CASA conference, and I will be giving some notes to staff. I know I already threw some of my ideas over to Lisa. And some recommendations that I would like for some of the committees to maybe take on. Great presentations, had a great time, lots of new knowledge. Some of the speakers were at the forefront of visionaries of where I believe our district is moving towards. So I'll present some of that later without getting too much into detail now. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Director Weiner.
I attended as our board representative, the Contra Costa Special District Association meeting, and I also attended the El Sobrante Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Director Stanley.
I was at the North Richmond MAC meeting yesterday, and I saw an opportunity that perhaps we can do some public goodwill. The MAC wants to, as usual, wants to celebrate Earth Day, and they asked Urban Tilth to take the lead on this, and I was thinking perhaps we can talk about this at our next meeting, but we could get involved by providing a table with some information, talk about the Earth Day related stuff like flushing wipes and giveaway stuff. But I was also thinking, because I ran this by our board attorney, we can pay for dumpsters. So I was wondering if we could, I don't know how many dumpsters we have at the plant, but if they were empty the day, at least by the day before Earth Day is celebrated in connection with everything else, we could let the North Richmond MAC people know that they can use our dumpsters for that one day and help clean the environment for that one day.
I encourage you to work with Lisa as the day gets closer to see if we can make that happen.
Okay.
Vice President Sedif.
Yes, me. I also attended the CASA Winter Conference, and I've been derelict in sending my notes in, so I will do that. So you will have them, and I also will send notes from the Bay Area Biosolids meeting, which was very good. Richmond City Council meeting last evening, and they voted to support the No on Coal through Richmond initiative. Our League of Women Voters, Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville Climate Concerns meeting. We had our annual ACLU annual meeting with Nancy Skinner was our speaker. I spoke prior to her on water and environmental rights. As you know, Nancy is a big environmental rights person, so I got to speak prior to her on those, emphasizing, of course, our water justice rights. I also created a game. I called it Justice Jenga, if you know what Jenga is. So I have pictures of that I'll give to you guys. On each side of the blocks was something related to Jenga. And the way I created it was the very bottom ones were the most crucial parts of justice, and the way that I posited it was that it's different from the game Jenga where you try and move pieces and not make it fall. My thing was each one of, if you move any pieces of our rights, whether it's, the right to work or water rights or equality or the right to vote, the right to our gender rights, any of it. Our justice is so fragile, our democracy is so fragile that any of them will cause it to crumble. So that's how the game is played on two different blocks. But anyway, I also attended the Alliance for Girls. We're working on I'm helping mentor these girls who are writing their peace accord. I attended the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast and luncheon on the holiday. The Women's March, got to speak in Oakland. It's been a busy month. The Nonviolence Resistance Training at the Meta Center for Nonviolence, and a couple other things, but those were the most important. Oh, the one that spoke the most to me was our district attorney, Dinah Becton. She was, she speaks a lot about the things that she's doing to make difference in our criminal justice system, but the one I think that will make the most difference to, the one that I think makes the biggest difference is I got to watch her get ordained as a minister. So to me, it speaks volumes when someone says they are led from a different place than when they actually take that particular step to be ordained. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I also attended CASA, and I attended the San Pablo City Council, and I too am negligent in getting my notes out, but I will get them to you.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 8B, good of the order, reports on events and activities which may be of interest to members of the board and community members.
All right, let's start with Director Stanley. Anything?
I think I covered it.
Okay. Director Weiner?
I do have some things.
Okay.
Like Director Stanley, I attended the El Sobrante Chamber, and they're planning an Earth Day event. And I saw in our emails a request for a table at the El Sobrante Library from our district. I hope we can accommodate that. They would be very happy. They asked me if we could, I asked them if there would be tabling, and they said that they would be very happy to have us because we're so directly related to Earth Day activities. So I hope we can get a table there. And then
When is the event?
the Earth Day, it will be not on the official Earth Day, but on a Saturday before the official Earth Day.
Okay.
Anyway, the request was sent to the district, so I hope that comes across somebody's
Anybody
desk.
get that in the district? No?
I think it was addressed to Joe.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think it was addressed to Joe.
Could somebody follow up with Joe to make sure,
And then,
He usually organizes that.
and then we received a newsletter from the climate resilience part of the legislative analysts that work for CSDA, and one of the items that was on that analysis was climate resilience bond, SB 45. I have a summary of it, which I'm going to give to the GM, and it's $5.51 billion, and the project to put a berm around our plant would be definitely in the wheelhouse of this bond. And there's a lot of money, and if you read the breakout of how they want to spend the money, about 5 of the 6, we could get bond money from the state to accomplish, I mean, we could get money, we wouldn't have to pay it back. They would issue the bonds, and we would be the beneficiaries of that bond measure. So I'm going to hand this to the GM.
Nice.
And I think that's it. What's the next item?
Adjournment.
All right, so then I have, on the next agenda, so this is an agenda item, on the next agenda,
Yeah, let's go in order. Let's
yeah,
finish.
so that's why I was asking, she said adjournment, but it's the next item.
Dr. Spada,
Nothing for
nothing of interest? Vice President Silic? Good? I'm good. Next item, please.
Item 8C, future agenda items, informal observations and inquiries regarding the business of the district or requests for placement of items of interest on a future agenda.
Okay, this time we'll start with Director Spada.
All right. I want to thank the staff, first off, for the great resolution proclaiming February as Black History Month. With that same sentiment, I would like to request for another, and I would like to make a motion to request March be proclaimed Women's History Month. So that is something that I would like in the, if possible, in the last meeting of February, so that we can proclaim March for the whole month of March.
That's just part of the month.
Yeah, not just part of the month, so that way we proclaim it, and at the end of February, it'll take full effect, and we can put it up. Because I know that I was looking for our proclamation the other day, and I was like, oh, we haven't voted on it yet for Black History Month. I wanted to share it, but it's done today, so I can share it later. So that is one of the future agenda items, please, to have a proclamation, because you guys are doing a really great job already, proclaiming, again, Women History Month in March. Is that it? And that is it for now.
Second. Yes, we're going to put that on.
And that is a motion, yes. So that is a motion to bring it at the end of the month.
Is that an appropriate thing to do, Mick?
It really doesn't need a motion, just direct staff to put it on the
He wants
next
to put
agenda.
it on
and
the
they'll do it.
agenda.
Okay, so just put it. Okay? That it? Director Spada? Dr. Weiner?
Yes, I just wanted to add that we get the bylaws, I mean, the procedures, board procedures onto the March, onto the agenda in March. And when we, and along with that, it would be nice if we had training on running meetings for the board, and training on the rules of order upon which we're going to base our procedures, and even training on how to make a motion, so that we become a much more efficient board.
So we have a training actually scheduled March, that is the governance. Yeah, so we actually have that schedule. It was the one we originally had it in February. We had to move it out to March, so that's scheduled, and it will go over all of those items. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to accommodate the March with to bring back the meeting policies and procedures. Can I check with Justin and get back to you, and we can report back on the 19th?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
I want to be sure we get it done.
We definitely are going to, we're working on it. I'm not sure if we'll be done in time. Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, Director Stanley?
I would like to discuss a grant writer, either by contract or something. We've talked about before, somebody who can either fill out the forms to chase down grants or bonds or whatever, and react to information that comes our way, usually without a lot of notice, and have things put together so that we can respond to the stuff.
I mean, we don't have a need at the moment. If we get to a place where we did just do a grant application and it was done by staff, I mean, I think we could certainly look for some type of service, but short of having something for them specifically at this moment.
Well, it seems like there's information that comes in our emails or where we go, and we there's not a person that we could throw it at except you.
Well, actually, so sometimes not all grants or funding would we be able to qualify. Sometimes you have to have projects in a certain state and be ready for that, or they don't meet the requirements. So I think that we definitely, as we find out about things, we just did one that will affect the horizontal levee project, and staff turned that around very quickly and submitted that. So, I mean, we can certainly look for assistance, but at the moment, we're not necessarily struggling to, we're not missing opportunities as a result of not having a resource to do that, so.
Okay.
All set?
Yes.
I mean, Vice President said it, so.
It's okay. Interchangeable as far as I'm concerned. I don't have a future agenda item, but I do have something to say if we're done with this part. Unless you have something.
I have something.
Can I say something after?
No, go ahead. You say yours now.
No,
It's part of this, isn't it?
No, it's a closing remark.
Oh, okay. So my future agenda item is, Harry touched on something very important, and something we haven't done here since I've been on the board anyway. I would like for our attorney, at least once a month, to give us a 10-minute or less presentation on exactly the things that Harry was talking about, mainly the Brown Act, and also maybe like Harry was talking about rules and procedures and motions, and that would be good. I know we're having a training in March, but I think it would be fruitful just to hear from you on a monthly basis, one meeting a month, 10 minutes or less, nothing, and then give us the opportunity to ask you questions after that. So I definitely want that on the March agenda. And we'll make it the last meeting of the month. Okay?
Can I get continuing education credit?
No.
I can't get CEU for that.
And that's it for me. Go ahead.
Now can I say?
Sure you can.
Okay, so, we mark this as our, we call this Black History Month, so I would really like it if we can close with a quote. So I don't have an agenda item, but I have a quote.
Okay, so before you close the
That's
meeting.
why I wanted to say something.
Before you close the meeting, I'm going to have Director Cepeda, who wants to make a,
That's why I wanted to say.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to see if we can also close, and maybe we can co-close the meeting with a sentiment in memory of a former director, Fred Granzella, our former director here for the West County Wastewater District. He served here for many years, and regardless of what all of our politics may sometimes differ, he did serve the public, and this room is named after him. So I think it is good to at least be able to recognize individuals that provided service to our community.
I second that. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. There's a quote by Booker T. Washington that says, well, before I tell you the quote, we spend a lot of time chasing success by whatever measure that is. And so I spend a lot of time explaining to people, even my children, that success is not material things. And you have to measure it in a higher way. So Booker T. Washington had a really good quote, and it says, "Success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed." That was it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, anyone? If not, meeting adjourned.
Can I just say one thing? Sorry, I just want to thank the staff. I know that there was a handful of you who came in and worked for many, many hours cleaning up the office and the district. So thank you for your help. I know you are the silent heroes behind the scenes. So thank you for the help out here.
The entire board thanks you, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great meeting.
I think I'm reconsidering. It's shocking and appalling.
Nobody is.
My face fell.
So I will tell her.
Since the last time I saw it.